My name is Bree. I'm the supervisor of our septic inspection program. So in-house we call it our Septic Maintenance Inspection Program, or SMIP. We're here today to give kind of a brief overview on any changes that have been made to the inspection program since the last time that we were here in Kennisis Lake. So our program kicked off back in 2017. Kennisis Lake and Little Kennisis Paddy's Bay area were our kind of starting point. And we've made some drastic changes to the program over the last few years. So just here to give a bit of a recap so that members of Kennisis Lake Cottage Associations know what to expect in the coming years when we return to do their inspections. Our septic maintenance inspection program is important to us. It's one of the main pillars of protecting our lakes. Septic systems, especially on waterfront properties, is going to be the closest contaminator for the most part of on-land contamination for lakes. So we're out here trying to both educate and protect, make sure people are using their systems in accordance to their approved use, making sure that they're being maintained properly and that there's no apparent issues that are going to cause any kind of environmental harm or be detrimental to either the property owners, their neighbors, or the lakes.
Our objective is to try to get every septic that we have in Haliburton County to be operating as intended.
Septic tank has 2 compartments, a primary chamber and a secondary chamber. They're divided by a partition wall that's going to divide this into 2/3 and 1/3. So the intent is that as the wastewater comes in, we want to slow the velocity of that wastewater down, and to do that they've incorporated a concrete baffle at that point. And so as the wastewater comes in, hits the baffle and then slowly goes down to the bottom. 2/3 of the way over we have a partition wall, and that partition wall is ported about 1/3 of the way down. And the intent of that is to ensure that any of this solid matter here isn't able to migrate over into our secondary chamber, which is where we prefer to have just more liquid at that point. As that wastewater rises on this chamber, it trickles over to this one, and the bulk of the solid matter has now been kept over to this side here. And as this liquid level rises, then it rises to the point where it's able to migrate out through the bed. So we call that working level. So essentially it's 1 glass of water down the drain, then 1 glass of water leaves the system. So we don't ever have we don't want to have that big surge, or that big deluge of wastewater going through all at once. Tanks are sized by a couple of different parameters, a few different parameters: square footage of your house, number of plumbing fixtures. The septic is not freeze vulnerable if it's maintained properly. We're generating a temperature with that bacteria of like 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, as long as it's healthy bacteria. That's our filter there, and it's going in the inlet pipe here, or the outlet pipe here, I should say. In the perfect world, we're not using, anything that's going down the drain that's going to be detrimental, But if there's oils and greases, unfortunately, we'll get feminine hygiene products, we'll get baby wipes, all that sort of thing. That's what that's catching. If you have a cottage that's being rented periodically, then you want to be checking that a whole lot more often. Other than that, it's generally something that, every 3 to 5 years you're calling Dave to come and do a pump. He'll do that clean out for you at that time. If you have concerns about it, or thinking that there may be, potential that you're backed up, then yeah, it's digging the tank. These ones are nice with the domes, makes that digging thing a whole lot easier. So be careful, wear goggles, wear gloves, and you can take a peek. This much maintenance, between being careful what goes in and having Dave on your 3 to 5 year phone list. I mean, it's a tough system, and they can take a lot of abuse, but they can't. Everybody's got a mark.
We've started breaking out our systems and our infractions based on risk levels. Systems that we come across that have no compliance issues when we're there are deemed as a low risk system. And that's essentially us saying there's always a risk when you're dealing with sewage. There's always a risk when you're dealing with a septic system. The reality of it is it's still treating something that if we weren't here at this property, if there wasn't a home here, this ground would be entirely different than the fact that now that there's a septic system there. We're looking at components of the system. So first section, kind of main portion of it, is our septic components. So is your tank and all of its tank components in proper operating manner? Are your lids good? Are your baffles good? Is it an actual septic tank? Then we're looking at your bed. Is there any signs of any kind of breakout? Is there any signs of, aging, of wear, of anything like that? Are there structures or anything like that that is infringing on the system itself that's going to cause harm? And then our biggest thing is making sure that we are compliant with our approved use. So one of our biggest contentious issues is number of bedrooms. People are not aware of what their septic is approved for, and so we have a mom and pop cottage that's sized for 3 bedrooms. They've added a bunkie plus stuck 2 bedrooms in an unfinished basement, whatever else. So now you're doubling the loading of your system from what it's designed to take. And while that might only happen a couple times a year, it's still, at that time of year, it's still overloading the system. So it's, at some point or other, that system is being flooded versus what it's normally supposed to be. So we tweaked our bylaws slightly to say that you are allowed to hire a qualified, approved third-party inspector. We have ensured that they have their qualifications in Part 8 of the building code. So they are qualified to comment on sewage systems. It's on our website under our septic maintenance inspection program page. Our biggest component and our biggest reason for doing this is to promote our lake health, to be able to end up with healthier lakes in the long run.